All right, in this one, we're going to take a look at object and edit mode, and then we're going to go into geometry nodes. How exciting. So for object and edit mode, you can see that here we are currently set to object mode. And this is how we were manipulating our object in the last video, in object mode. So when we hit G, R, and S to scale, we're manipulating the whole object. But what if we want to manipulate the underlying structure of the object? Well, we could go to edit mode. If we go over here and go to edit mode, or just hit tab on the keyboard to go in and out of edit mode, you can see in edit mode, we get the underlying structure that makes up the cube. Now, meshes are made up of three different parts. They're made up of vertices, and you can see that right now we're in vertex select mode. And you can see that these little points right here are vertices. They're also made up of edges. If we select the edge select mode, or we could hit 1 to go into vertex select mode and 2 to go into edge select mode, you can see that we have edges here. Now, edges are composed of two vertices. As you can see right here, we have one vertex there. If I shift left click, we have another one there, and this is an edge. Or we could just go to edge select mode and select the edge, which again has one vertex on each side. So we have the edges right there, and then we have faces right here, and the faces are composed of 3 or more vertices. So you can see that right here, this face has 4 vertices, but it could have as little as 3 and anywhere up from 3 vertices. The most common is 4 vertex faces, which are called quads. So you can see here, again, we could go to face select mode by selecting this or just hitting 3 on the keyboard. So 1 for vertex, 2 for edge, 3 for face. And you can see that here we have the faces of the cube. Now let's say we want to change the underlying structure of this cube. Well, we can. If we go to vertex select mode, we could select this vertex, G to grab it and move it. Let's select this edge. Again, hitting 2 to go into edge select mode, select this edge, S key to scale, R to rotate, and then select this face, 3 to go into face select mode, grab it, S key to scale, and maybe rotate it, R twice to tumble rotate it. And now we could go to object mode by hitting tab, and check it out. We've now made our cube into a completely different shape. How awesome is that? Now, one thing to keep in mind, if I hit the N key, once again, you can see that we have the location, rotation, and scale. These are set to 0 and the scale to 1. And if we move these in object mode, it changes these values. However, in edit mode, you can see that if I hit the A key to select everything, and then G to move, you can see that the origin point stays where it is. So in edit mode, the origin point is not changed. And here, if I hit the R key, R twice to rotate, S to scale, and G to move it, you can see if I go back to object mode, we still have the same default values right here. Because again, in edit mode, it's not manipulating the origin point of the object. So you can see here, if I hit Alt R, Alt G, and Alt S, it doesn't do anything because again, in edit mode, it's manipulating these vertices, edges, and faces independent of the origin point. So these don't have any effect. Very, very cool. Now let's say you want to add more geometry. Well, there's a couple things you could do. Again, I won't get too much into it. If you're interested in 3D modeling, you could check out my other course on 3D modeling. We go a lot more into edit mode and what you could do. But here, if we go to face select mode, select this face, we could do something that's called extruding. So we hit the E key and we could extrude this mesh or this face out just like that. And you can see it now adds more geometry, which is awesome. We could then go into vertex select mode and move these around if we want to. We could also hit Control R, add a loop cut, which will basically cut a loop around our whole mesh. And we could left click. We could then move this to where we want and then left click to confirm. Or if I hit Control Z, we could hit Control R, left click, and then right click to leave it centered right there. And now we have more vertices here to mess around with, as you could see. Very, very cool. So now we have a lot more vertices that we can manipulate this cube into different shapes, which is really sweet. Let's delete this and hit Shift A, add a mesh UV sphere. And you can see if I go into edit mode by hitting tab, This UV sphere is comprised of quads, so 4 vertex faces, as you can see right there. And it also has at the very top some triangles. So these triangles only have 3 vertices. Now once again, you want to try to stay clear of triangles, except in certain meshes or certain parts of your mesh, you'll have triangles, such as right here. You can see we have triangles at the top and triangles at the bottom, but the rest is quad or 4 vertex faces. Let's add another mesh, Shift A. We could go to mesh torus, which is basically a donut. And you can see here, I could shift select different faces. And then, for example, hit the S key and scale these in, or hit the G key and bring these out and start to create some different shapes. Very cool. And then here I could also hit Shift A. Let's add one more, Suzanne or monkey. And Suzanne, or the monkey here, her name is Suzanne. This is the mascot of Blender. And you can see that here we also have vertices, edges, and faces that comprise this model. And if we wanted to, we could start to grab these and give Suzanne a different shape. For example, some crazy eyebrows right here. So there we go. Very, very cool. So that is edit and object mode. Again, object mode allows for you to manipulate your object as a whole. Edit mode allows for you to manipulate the underlying structure of that object and add more vertices, edges, or faces, or just change the structure of it, which is really, really cool. I don't know what happened to Suzanne there. So that is object and edit mode. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now. Au revoir.